We have breaking news, guys. It's not exactly breaking when I get it out. It takes me forever to get my videos made, but we are finding out that Barry Morphew has now been arrested a second time. So we know that this has been a case that's been going a very long 5 years. And many people believe that Miss Suzanne Morphew, allegedly murdered in her own house by her own husband. To put it quite simply, there's been a lot of back and forth with the charges against her husband, Barry. He initially was arrested for her murder, but those charges were dropped later. So prosecutors were afraid they would process this without a body. Then her remains were discovered in 2023. Linda Stanley, the DA who initially charged Barry Morphew, was disbarred in 2024. That was related to misconduct, related to this case and another, and she made improper statements to the media and retaliated against the judge on this case.
DA Ann Kelly of Saguache County, she is not about to Linda Stanley herself on television, Linda Stanley being the previous DA who talked her way into disbarment, with, among other things, running her mouth to the news media about cases in a way that is not allowed in the legal profession. There you heard DA Kelly very carefully thanking people for questions she had no intention of answering.
The new DA, Ms. Kelly, held a press conference after Barry Morphew's indictment. So DA Ann Kelly, she did hold a press conference, and this was just right after Morphew's arrest. She gave us hints of something that might stand out in court while he was being arrested. You got to remember, again, they do have Suzanne Morphew's remains now. Well, the attorney, Ann Kelly, was very professional and very confident that they had what they needed in order to bring this to trial this time. Now, before we do this press conference, let's do a recap of the news.
Barry Morphew was first arrested, but those charges were dismissed in April of 2022. Then human remains were found in a remote Saguache County and identified as being Suzanne's, her death being ruled a homicide. Now, 2 days ago, a grand jury indicted Barry Morphew, and he was arrested in Arizona earlier today.
During the press conference, we were given a hint by the prosecutor that when they did arrest Barry, whatever he said would be used in trial. So I wanted to make sure that stood out. Let's go ahead and continue the recap.
People in the town of Salida have been watching these developments closely since the case started. That's where the Morphew family lived before Suzanne disappeared.
Yeah, Fox 31's Greg Nieto has been talking to people there tonight about the stunning new developments, and he joins us live. Greg?
In both Salida and here in nearby Poncha Springs, we actually heard people talking amongst themselves about that breaking news, about that indictment. And some 5 years later down here, the theme remains shine bright for Suzanne. By whom?
Hippie Radio 97.5, Salida, Colorado.
For years, Dan Reidenhauer has been the voice of the Rockies and is now hearing the voices of some relief.
Very short and sweet, not a lot of rambling, just finally, after 5 years, we're seeing it go forward.
This evening, the 12th Judicial District Attorney's Office announcing a grand jury is indicting Suzanne's husband, Barry, for first-degree murder. Reidenhauer says behind the scenes, the 12th Judicial District went to work, not the limelight.
Hopes were high, and you're seeing that and hearing that today with charges, the grand jury indictment.
I think this is what I think everyone was waiting for, was this moment.
Over at Mabel's Deli and Poncha Market, co-owner Shan Hall says Suzanne Morphew used to stop by.
What a beautiful, amazing, kind, gentle person she was.
Hall says Morphew's memory lives on.
Going through the pain all over again of what she possibly could have went through. And her being her only voice.
5 years since the mother of two went missing. 5 years later, Dan Reidenhauer says the true final chapter may be in the process of being written.
There's going to be a lot, like you say, to learn about this, but the hope is high.
He is the man accused of killing his wife, Suzanne. As of noon today, Morphew is allowed to post bail. It's a $500,000 cash bond. The affidavit into the case is also expected to be made public, detailing the charges against Morphew. Suzanne disappeared after leaving her home for a bike ride on Mother's Day in 2020, and what happened remains a mystery.
Let's look back. Here's the charges for 2020. And during that first arrest, and as they prepared to take him to trial the first time, they actually had pretty damning evidence. Those charges were first-degree murder. He was charged with tampering with a human body, even though they had not found Suzanne's remains at the time. And this is very interesting. They're saying that he was attempting to influence a public servant. Just a reminder, guys, that those charges were dropped in 2022. So today, the charges that he's facing: first-degree murder, tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with physical evidence. He was also indicted on charges of possession of a dangerous weapon and attempting to influence a public servant. Remains as one of the charges that he's going to be facing, which is still it's more interesting. This trial is going to be the trial of the year, really, because this is a woman that we know she was having an affair on Barry. And we know that she was fighting cancer. She was a cancer survivor. And it is thought that Barry Morphew discovered that Suzanne Morphew was allegedly having an affair with a guy named Jeff. Jeff was married. So other evidence that they may use in trial is going to be the GPS information they originally shared during his first arrest, where they believe that GPS information may be evidence of him running around the house chasing Suzanne. And they think that it's possible that he was carrying this tranquilizer concoction and a gun, because Barry said that day he was hunting chipmunks. Even more interesting is they say that the concoction that Barry was using, he was the only person that had it in the area. So, according to the autopsy results, it revealed that Suzanne Morphew had been exposed to the combination of tranquilizers called BAM, B-A-M. It was a combination of butorphanol, azaparone, and metatidine. I hope I did not butcher that too much. That was a mouthful right there, guys. And, we've done some research on this. So this is going to actually be pretty damning evidence to him, simply because the investigators were focusing on the fact who in the area had this combination. Barry Morphew said that he used this in order to hunt deer. He also mentioned the fact that he was looking at chipmunks in the area, so I don't know why you would use such a sedation for such a small creature, but that's what he said. The fact that they believe that Barry Morphew is the only person that had BAM in that area is so damning, isn't it? So I was so glad to hear that they did have some updates and upgrades to this investigation. Not only that, the new prosecutor, she seems to be watching every step she makes. She is making sure that this case goes forward and they can possibly bring justice for Suzanne Morphew, her loved ones. Now, they have 2 daughters. And what we've seen from the daughters involved with this case that belong to both Barry and Suzanne Morphew, they've been very supportive of the father. We don't know why they are so supportive when you see such damning evidence against Barry, especially after they found the remains of Suzanne. They tested those remains and they were able to say, yes, indeed, she had this concoction in her system before she died. There was life insurance involved with this case. How much money did Barry Morphew have? Did he go broke? We'll talk more on that later. Real quick, let me show you this new prosecutor, her talking to media.
The investigation and the prosecution. Colorado's community of prosecutors is committed to assisting wherever the need arises. In addition to Mr. Doherty's assistance, District Attorney John Walsh of the Denver District Attorney's Office has committed to providing me with appellate guidance during the case proceedings. So today I have with me Chaffee County Sheriff Andy Rorick. I stand united with Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker. I stand united in announcing this indictment. Through this process, I have seen firsthand how deeply Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker and the entire Sheriff's Department in Chaffee County cares about this case. I am proud and appreciative of our cross-jurisdictional partnership and their hard and excellent work.
You got to remember, initially, when this case was being investigated, the public was very hard on the investigators, the sheriff, everyone attached to this case. You know, a case like this, it's not going to happen overnight, but it seemed like people were expecting them to be able to prosecute and arrest Barry within months. So the prosecutor is standing up for them, and I'm really happy to see that, actually.
Colorado and law enforcement in Colorado, we are very dedicated to making sure that we don't forget the victims of cold case homicides. But we also understand that it is so important to make sure that we have done everything we can to bring a case to court. And we are proud of the work that we've done.
So there you go. So we finally have Barry Morphew behind bars and ready to face justice. Finally. Suzanne Morphew she was an artist. She loved to make stained glass art. She loved spending time outdoors. And if he's responsible for what happened to Suzanne, he stole her life away after fighting years trying to defeat cancer. Okay, let's listen to questions media ask. 1 second, I almost forgot to tell you. This question is important because the media asked her about Barry Morphew when they were arresting him.
Thank you for that question. The question is whether or not Morphew, what Mr. Morphew's reaction was, and I can tell you that that's going to be part of the case, and we look forward to presenting that in front of a jury.
So that was very, very interesting. You know, it didn't seem like much, but if you really think about it, his arrest being presented to a jury, is there something more? Did Barry show any type of anger? Was he being aggressive? Did he say something important to the prosecutors? Well, I guess we have to wait to find out, but I just thought that was interesting and wanted to share that with you guys. Share your thoughts below. What do you think the prosecutor may be referring to?
Yes, sir.
So the male DNA was found in Suzanne's car. Are you guys moving forward? Are you guys using that evidence for his trial? Tell us more about that.
And thank you for that question. The indictment has a wealth of information about that particular topic, as well as the probable cause that supports the arrest in this case. And obviously, we are going to do everything we can to make sure that justice is done for Suzanne. And that includes being as thorough as we can about the facts of the case.
So there you go. An interesting question referring to the DNA that they found in Suzanne Morphew's car. We have heard about that multiple times. In fact, the defense said that the DNA found in that car didn't belong to Barry Morphew, that it had actually connected to a past offender. We never did really get any names or anything on that. Even the prosecutors at the time said it could be considered as an unknown male, but it's still also considered a key piece of evidence in the case. So is this DNA evidence something that they made a mistake on at the beginning and figured out, they identified someone? Is there someone new? This DNA in her car was evidence that they used or was going to use during the first trial, and they're going to continue to use that evidence. So it's going to give us something.
What will be the biggest difference between the prosecution of this case and the time versus back in 2021?
And the question is, what would be the difference between the prosecution of this case and other prosecutions? Justice for cold case homicide victims remains a priority in the state of Colorado, both for prosecutors and for law enforcement. And so that has been the process for me.
So I found the indictment for you guys and put it on here for you to read over. If you would like, you can pause it and read it. And I would like to ask you guys, if you enjoy the work that I do, make sure that you push like, push subscribe, and share. Now, Barry Morphew has said that he had nothing to do with his wife's murder. And it's not unusual for someone to maintain their innocence, especially in a high-profile case such as this one and others. Barry Morphew has consistently denied any involvement with his wife's disappearance and death. So I want to remind you guys that when I make these videos, these people that we talk about that are suspects or going to trial for a murder or a crime, they are presumed innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. So here's the thing. Barry Morphew's wife goes missing on Mother's Day, and just months later, he's seen with a woman named Shoshona Dark. Supposedly, these two met online. She works in the health system. She has adult children, and she was also arrested for trespassing on Barry Morphew and Suzanne Morphew's property after Suzanne disappeared trying to retrieve a package. What I know so far is that they may still be together. And isn't it odd how Barry Morphew left Colorado and went to Arizona? Barry Morphew has tried to look like a man that loved and cared for his wife. But in reality, there were a lot of people from the very start that were able to pick up that he might not be that man he was trying to portray. And the fact that his daughters continue to support him, considering the evidence that they've come out with, is very, surprising. Okay, ladies, I just want to ask this question, and you can share it in comments. Now, Barry Morphew was well known in this area as a potential person of interest or suspect in his wife's missing case. Now, ladies, this guy's, a person of interest. Why would you date someone like this? Why would you support someone like this? Even if you thought there was a chance he could be innocent, why would you draw yourself into a relationship where you have this kind of drama going on? And certainly, what if he was guilty? What does that say about the chances of your relationship if y'all were to have some sort of disagreement, especially in the future? I am always shocked by people that are trying to communicate with suspects or persons of interest, and then finally people that have been actually found guilty. So let's say Ted Bundy, etc., how they get mail and support. It just shocks me. So please, guys, share your thoughts below for the next video. I would love to share your questions, and then we kind of base that video off of that. I'm still working on the Lori Vallow video. We're going to use your comments. And I'm trying to build up a video to where I can get them out on a regular basis versus making the video, then trying to upload it that day. It's just, that's too stressful. Thank you. I'm very grateful to all of you, and having you guys here on this channel being my family, the people who have helped me and supported me from the very beginning. Let's not forget about the girls that continue to go missing, people like Dulce. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.